If you ever stared at World of Warcraft character screen thinking, what should I play next? You're in the right place. One of my big goals here is to help you, whether you're brand new to World of Warcraft or just looking for a fresh playstyle to try out. Now in this video, we're going to look at the options you have when you're thinking about playing a ranged DPS. So if you're still deciding what class or role fits you best, either way, I've got you. Let's check out what range fits your playstyle the most. So what is a ranged DPS? In World of Warcraft, ranged DPS classes are damage dealers who bring the pain from a safe distance. That includes mages, warlocks, shadow priests, elemental shamans, balance druids, the devastation evoker, and of course hunters. Each one has its own flavor, strength and playstyle, and we'll break them all down. But first, why choose a ranged DPS? Personally, I think playing ranged DPS is a bit easier than melee, and here's why. When you're at a distance, you get a better view of the fight, which means more time to react to mechanics. Whether it's big red circles, spinning chainsaws, or fire raining from the sky, seeing them early makes a big difference. This has been improving visual cues, so dodging deadly stuff has never been easier, especially from range. And even when you're moving, you're still often able to keep casting or shooting, which keeps your damage flowing. Sure, dancing around can hurt your DPS a bit, but trust me, staying alive and being able to blast is way more important than standing still and getting flattened. For me, range just feels smoother and more forgiving. But hey, if you disagree, let me know in the comments. I love hearing different takes. We all play the game differently. If tanking is more your vibe, I've got a video just for that. Which tank fits your playstyle? Go check that out after this one. What makes a good DPS? So what does it mean to be a solid DPS in World of Warcraft? Your primary job, burn it all down. Your job is to use your abilities as smart and efficiently as possible, so you do the most damage in that time window as much as you can, with one goal only, to melt your enemies. Nuke those bosses from full health to zero as fast as possible. But there's more to being a good DPS than just doing big numbers. Your second job, stay alive. Because guess what? A dead DPS does no damage. Staying alive has become a bigger responsibility than ever before. So you got to learn to avoid those dangerous mechanics. Use your defensive cooldowns. And for the love of Azeroth, carry some healing potions. Your bonus job? Be a team player. Got interrupts? Use them. Got stuns? Even better. Interrupt those annoying caster mobs. Help your tank stay in control. And support your healer by reducing incoming damage. Oh, and don't sleep on utility. Whether that's group buffs, movement tools or crowd controls, it all matters. Casters have an array of utility, so learn to use them when it's convenient. When you combine high damage with smart play and strong teamwork, you'll be topping the meters and helping your group succeed. And that feels amazing. Sound like fun? Good, because now it's time to dive into the classes and see which one fits you the best. In World of Warcraft, the Mage is the ultimate class canon, a spell-slinging powerhouse who brings explosive burst damage and area effect spells that will fill the battlefield. Whether it's raining fireballs, freezing enemy in place, or bending the fabrics of arcane magic, mages are all about control, style and spectacle. But it's not just about damage. Mages also bring some really cool utility, conjuring food and drinks, teleporting around the world and opening portals for your group. No one throws a party like a mage, or leaves one faster. They come in 3 specializations: Arcane, Fire and Frost, each with a distinct identity and playstyle. If you love the idea of juggling insane burst damage, with a lot of instacast abilities and choosing between 3 magic flavors and looking incredible while doing it, Mage might just be your perfect fit. Visually, they're absolutely S tier, and easily one of the most versatile ranged DPS classes in the game. But they're not called glass cannons for nothing. With that high burst also comes your cloth armor that isn't made for face tanking mobs. You can be squishy, but have plenty tools to stay alive. Cool spells like Alter Time can save your life if you know how to anticipate incoming damage. From a class fantasy perspective, Mage is the wizard archetype turned up to 11. Fireballs, teleportation, time manipulation, you name it. And does World of Warcraft do the fantasy justice? Oh yes. Fire mages set themselves on fire and hurl back-to-back pyroblasts like a crazed arsonist. It's chaotic, fast-paced and all about chasing those huge crits. Arcane mages manipulate raw magical energy, Think glowing arcane missiles, swirling orbs, and a shimmering purple shield. You feel like you're rewriting reality every time you cast. Frost mages are tactical and chilling, literally. You'll slow enemies with ice patches, control the battlefield with freezes, and nuke targets with glacial spikes that sound like your soul is freezing over. And of course, there's Blink, Polymorph, and Ring of Frost. Iconic flavorful spells that make mages feel unlike anything else. You are not a wizard in World of Warcraft, you are the wizard. So do you want to dominate from a distance, stay light on your feet and watch enemy health bars melt, all while making interesting choices in your rotation? Then definitely play a mage. The Warlock is the sorcerer who crossed the line, embracing darker magic and summoning demons without hesitation. And by doing so, their toolkit transforms entirely into something else that plays unlike any other class in the game. They place horrific debuffs on enemies, damage over time effects called dots, and can terrify enemies by screaming fear in their soul. And so the old school ... fear playstyle still exists in the game today. And I for one am glad it does, because there's nothing more satisfying than placing multiple dots on your target, fearing them and watching them run off to their death, unable to react. And in some cases even getting more damage when they try to dispel the debuff. Blizzard has done an amazing job at making all three Warlock specs feel very different and unique. From a class fantasy perspective, the Warlock has you covered. This was my first World of Warcraft character back in vanilla, and oh boy, did I not regret it. This imp running around with you, and every time you summoned it, it would shout things like, "This is not in my contract." And sure, send in the little guy. It just cracked me up. Now, in retail WoW, the Warlock has evolved a lot. It still takes souls, burns and destroys them, and I'm here to say Blizzard kept their soul intact, as it does true justice to this dark sorcerer that wields demons and fell damage. And of course, there's soul stones, summoning portals, health stones, iconic flavor spells that make Warlock feel unlike anything else. You're not just an evil spellcaster in World of Warcraft, you're the Dark Soulbinder, the master of forbidden power. So do you want to torment your enemies with curses, command demonic forces, and watch the battlefield unravel in fire, fel and shadow, all while laughing in the face of danger? Then Warlock is your class. No matter which spec you choose, Warlock has one of the most distinct and flavorful identities in the game. From summoning demons to spreading curses or unleashing raw chaos. Every spell feels like it was never meant to be used responsible, and that's the fun of it. It's a class that rewards clever planning. It also rewards mastery by diving deeper in the evil depths of the Warlock, and it will make you feel a little bit more wicked. If you're looking for a class with dark flair, unmatched utility, always a good addition to the team, and a playstyle that lets you command the battlefield on your own terms, Warlock just might be the one. Shadow Priest is in a league of its own. This mysterious and cerebral range damage dealer combines damage over time with explosive burst windows, all tied together through a really cool resource system, Insanity, that rewards smart planning and precise timing. You're not just casting spells, you're channeling dark physic forces, bending reality, and unraveling minds. You'll need to maintain Vampiric Touch and Shadow Word of Pain across multiple enemies, while managing procs and cooldowns to unleash powerful abilities like Devouring Plague and Void Form. In AoE, positioning Shadow Crash effectively becomes a minigame of its own. It's a hybrid playstyle that demands high awareness, especially when syncing burst with abilities like Power Infusion, which during its peak in Dragonflight made Shadow Priest a sought-after powerhouse. To be honest, it took me an entire season to really get good at it, and that speaks volumes. If you enjoy juggling timers, keeping pressure on the battlefield, and mastering a spec with a high skill ceiling, then Shadow Priest might just be your kind of chaos. From a lore perspective, the priest has always been a key figure in World of Warcraft. It's no coincidence that Anduin, the king of the Alliance, is a priest himself. And although he's probably not a shadow priest, there's little doubt he could tap into the void if he truly wished, especially after witnessing his darker revelations in recent expansions. Shadow Priest, however, stands apart from their holy and disciplined counterparts. Instead of channeling the light, they embrace the opposite: entropy, control, and the slow unraveling of sanity. It's hardly surprising that one of the most compelling antagonists of the current saga, Xal'atath, is essentially a Shadow Priest. She appears wherever she pleases, whispers into mortal ears to achieve her goals. Shadow Priests have always been those who stared into the abyss too long and learned to whisper when it whispers back. Their power isn't built on healing or protection. It's about twisting minds, breaking reality, and letting the darkness seep into every crack. Abilities like Void Form, Mind Flay, and Vampiric Touch aren't just spells. They're physical manifestations of a fractured psyche weaponized against their enemies. And the game's lore reinforces this fantasy too. Even Xal'atath, one of the most enigmatic and dangerous entities in World of Warcraft, is closely intertwined with the Shadow Priest archetype. All of this makes it clear that this path isn't just powerful, it's seductively terrifying. I've always had a love-hate relationship with the Shadow Priest. In my life, the Shadow Priest had its shine moments, enjoying their spot in the holy spotlight, but sometimes it also disappeared into the shadow. One of my favorite memories was back when Shadow had this beautiful reckless playstyle. You'd give in to your madness, literally. Your damage would skyrocket as your insanity bar would climb, and if you pushed it too far, well, it would simply kill you. Your damage output had driven you to insanity with no way back than death. It was glorious, but by definition unsustainable. Hence the reason Blizzard pulled the plug on this talent. But I still remember raid nights where the raid leader would call out, "Yeah, we still got a few combat reses left. Priests, go ham." And that was my green light to unleash everything. To top those damage meters, detonate my mind, collapse in the heap, and get hauled back up by a battle res. Hopefully you lasted long enough to kill the boss. It made for some of the most adrenaline-fueled moments I've ever had in World of Warcraft. But then came the quieter years. Shadow had these long, bland stretches where it felt like Blizzard wasn't quite sure what to do with it. It bounced between chunky dot juggling and awkward filling casts, always flirting with greatness but never fully committing. It's like the spec was on a long experimental journey, with Blizzard not sure on what to do next with its problem child. I think they had a hard time trying to figure out what a void worshipping, mind melting caster would actually feel like. But as the lore unfolded, with the Blade of the Black Empire and Xal'atath started revealing herself more and more, so did the Shadow Priest. Now with 11.2, we're seeing another small rework, a gentle nudge in the new direction rather than a complete overhaul. The rotation's getting a little cleaner, some numbers are shifting around, and while it's not a massive transformation, I hope it's a step in the right direction that I think the Shadow Priest needs. I'm pretty sure with the next expansion, Blizzard will finally nail it, as they are so very close to capturing that class and spec identity. A version of Shadow Priest that's thrilling, fun, rewarding, and a little unhinged. That's not to say that the Shadow Priest isn't fun in its current playstyle. It is. There's a lot of fun to be had, and I would most certainly recommend you to try it for yourself. The class has a unique playstyle, and the priest has some of the best transmog sets to farm. I know that always makes me really happy. And if Shadow isn't your playstyle, you have two other glorious heal specs to choose from, if you feel like giving healing a go. Maybe Shadow Priest isn't for everyone, but for the right kind of player, it's perfect. It demands focus, timing, and a willingness to master complexity. And in return, it offers one of the most thematically rich and unique satisfying experiences in the game, if you can pull it off. I'll be honest, I love Shadow Priest most when it's bumping. I know, fun isn't about big numbers, but when Shadow melts the meters, it just feels right. If you love a spec that mixes classic dot weaving with modern burst windows and a hint of cosmic madness, Shadow has you covered. The Elemental Shaman has gone through some changes in the past, and oh boy, has this revamp brought back this glorious Elemental spec. In its current form, it's a huge blast playing Elemental right now, and you even have some cool different playstyles to choose from. Trying to learn the optimal rotation has always been a bit of a weird one. Figuring out when to use Ascendance and when just to blast with Stormkeeper took me a while to wrap my head around. There's a lot going on with Primordial Wave, Maelstrom generation, and keeping track of things like Lightning Rod applications. But once it clicks, it feels amazing. What I also really like about this class is the fact that you don't ramp as much. Of course, you want to time your cooldowns, but you're doing high damage numbers with not as much effort as the Mage or Warlock. Like I said, the tank pulls the pack, you press just a few of your buttons, and before you know it, you'll be blasting and bursting high numbers. In a world of shifting metas, the Shaman's fantasy remains as unshaken as the earth beneath their feet. And so, from a class fantasy perspective, the Shaman has always stood his ground. These are the people who commune with the elements. Since the start of vanilla, they've been solely Horde, drawn by the Orc's deep connection to their spirituality and shamanistic roots. Well, until Gul'dan gave them the manner of Kool-Aid, but that's a different story. There are plenty of famous Orc shamans in World of Warcraft, like Drek'Tar and Thrall, all with amazing storylines. But I have to admit, the most examples are enhancement shamans. But you do have Zappi, the Troll Elemental Shaman, that we all know from this famous cutscene on your screen right now. So when the Horde got Paladins, it didn't take long for the Shamanism to come to the Alliance. The first broken Shaman and the Farseer was actually an elemental Shaman named Nobundu. Nobundu's significance in the lore of World of Warcraft is highlighted by his role in the story of the Draenei, where he is seen as a teacher and a guide for those who wish to learn the ways of the Shaman. Shamans are spiritual guides, but not in the service of the gods. Instead, they commune with the raw forces of nature itself, the elements. These forces aren't always kind. Left unchecked, they clash in endless primal chaos. It's the Shaman's duty to bring balance to that storm. By calling upon earth, fire, water and air, Shaman act as a mediator, calming the elements and channeling their power. They summon totems to aid their allies or unleash nature's fury on their enemies. Shamans are flexible fighters, capable of striking from a distance or up close, but the wise amongst them choose their approach carefully, exploiting their enemies' strengths and weaknesses. Playing the Elemental Shaman is a huge spectacle for the eyes, an unleashed element that can't be tamed. And if that's not enough, you have two other glorious specs to choose from. Enhancement as your melee DPS spec, and Restoration if you want to keep your group alive. There was even talk that Shamans were considered to become a tank in Classic. Just imagine that. I mean, just put that in perspective. That's how Blizzard looks at the Shaman. It's so versatile, it could play every role with strength. But in that viewpoint, you can't go wrong with the Shaman. Its diversity in spec choices and different playstyles is exactly why it makes it into my recommendations. Whether you crave the raw elemental fury, the spiritual support of restoration, or the primal ferocity of enhancement, Shaman offers a playstyle for every kind of adventure. The Balanced Druid. Ah yes, the Balanced Druid. Better known as the Nature Chicken or Moonkin, or as Boomy, a caster that turns into a big fluffy owl. These days even as a cool looking fire owl. These chicken forms got overhauled in Dragonflight, and rightfully so, as they were somewhat outdated. And then you have the iconic spell called Flap, that makes you flap your wings and you will see your happy feet lift off the ground. And you meet your flappy wings that finally work. Moon Chicken extraordinaire. And the funny thing is, you don't get born as a flying chicken. No, you need to get a tomb to teach you the spell. Now owl forms are more diverse than ever. My favorite one is this fire looking one, that you can still get from Dragonflight. Balanced Druid is really unique. I know, I say that about all specs. Don't shoot me, Blizzard is really good at making spec flavors. And balance? Well, it's one of those specs that always feels a little ridiculous, but somehow in the best way possible. When I think balance, I think of nature's angriest owl on steroids, with access to the galaxy's biggest light show. And if owls are really just not your thing, I mean, I wouldn't know why, but you can always go astral form, just by equipping the Glyph of the Stars. Lore-wise, Druids are the protectors of nature, safeguarding the balance between the wild, the elements and the cosmos. Throughout history, legends like Malfurion Stormrage and Fandral Staghelm have wielded nature's fury to defend Azeroth from ruin. Among them, the Balanced Druids that tap into the cosmic forces of the sun, moon and the stars. Not to control nature, but to channel its raw, untamed power, taking the form of the mighty Moonkin to stand against anything that threatens the natural order. But let's be honest, when you're in Boomkin form, lore tends to take a backseat. The spectacle of spamming laser beams from your hands while wobbling around like a cosmic chicken just takes over. And honestly, that's half the fun. It's the wild, in its weirdest and most wonderful form. That's not to say there is no lore. Just ask Nobles, he will tell you, there is plenty when it comes to the Balanced Druids. Its quirkiness might be the very reason some players are drawn to the spec, while for others, it's exactly what turns them away. You really have to look past your own judgment here and give this Balanced Chicken a chance. I know, it might look a bit silly with lasers and star explosions, but underneath all that, it's actually a pretty straightforward spec, and there's a lot of fun to be had with this spec. The rotation is predictable. You manage your eclipses, keep your dots up and press your spenders. Sounds simple enough, doesn't it? What makes it stand out isn't some over-the-top flashiness, it's the little things. It has combat res, off healing, roots and other tools most DPS specs don't get. It's flexible, reliable and it feels good to play when you want a DPS spec that can actually help out in a tough spot. I know plenty of druids that happily play Feral, Guardian or Resto but skip balance. Probably because of its weird vibe, and honestly, that's fine. It's not for everyone. But if you like having solid damage, a clean rotation, flashy spells, and a few extra buttons that can actually save your group, Balanced druid is worth a shot. The Devastation Evoker, a brand new addition in Dragonflight. The Dragfear Evoker was created to channel the magic of all 5 Dragonflights. And unlike anything else we've seen before, they swap between a fiercely dragon form and a human-like form with some serious sparkle. And speaking of sparkle, nobody gets more options in character creation than the Evoker. You can pick every color of the rainbow, every shade of Dragonflight, or something entirely your own. And then multiply that by 2. One you customize your dragon, picking armor, color, spikes, you name it. And one for your human form. It's the most inclusive, customizable class Blizzard has ever made. Evokers are casters, similar to mages. But there's so much more than that. While other races and classes are interchangeable, the Dragfear can only be evokers, which means their form and their fighting are intertwined. They can bat their wings to knock enemies away or swipe their tails to fling them into the air. And don't be fooled by all these colors. When going into combat, you will fight in your default true form, the lizard-shaped fire-breathing dragon. And by taking a deep breath, flies over the battlefield spewing molten cinders. You can even pick up your ally with your claws and drop them out of harm's way. And then you have your most impressive ability, Soar, which allows you to launch yourself into the sky and fly to distant locations. No need for a mount, just pure dragon flying in your pure dragon form. Class Fantasy. The Evoker isn't here to follow old traditions. No, this class is about forging your own identity. And honestly, it kinda feels like it was designed by a team that couldn't decide whether you wanted a dragon, a fashion model, or a walking pride banner. So they just made all 3 in one. You don't get the bulky, menacing, dangerous looking dragon we've all known for years. Instead, you get a sparky serpent with attitude, color changing wings, and a dramatic glide. It's Rathian with no balls. More a runaway dragon bride ready for the next cosplay convention. But you know what? That's the charm. WoW is all about inclusion these days. There's gotta be a class for everyone to vibe with. And between the glittery wings, serpentine glam, and color swapping spell effects, let's just say, I think we both know which part of the alphabet's gonna love this one. I'll be genuinely shocked if some old school orc player willingly rolled one of these inclusive glittery dragons. But hey, I'm not here to judge. That's what makes Azeroth beautiful. You've got your axe wielding brutes on one side, and glam rock dragon models on the other. Jokes aside, yeah, it's a bit ridiculous, maybe even a tad over-designed, but somehow it weirdly works. So kudos to Blizzard for making this fantasy real, into a dragon embodiment. It can't be easy from a design point of view. So, should you play an Evoker? Well, here's the thing, I wasn't hyped for it either. Made one during Dragonflight's pre-patch, slapped on some dumb dragon-like meme name, and to be honest, I didn't get very far. But for the sake of this video, I had to dive in, and here's what I found out. The class did surprise me, big time. What I assumed would be a gimmick, those empowered spells, turned out to be a fun and satisfying mechanic. And if you're worried it might be too simple, don't. You can play it in simple mode, and do just fine. But there's a ton of depth waiting once you start pulling off cool setups and amazing combos. Devastation does have a huge skill ceiling. A well-played Evoker stands out by miles compared to a casual one. So should you play an Evoker? If you enjoy high mobility classes with flashy impactful spells, flexible playstyles, and room to flex your skills, yes, absolutely. If you're looking for a no-nonsense old-school simple caster, maybe not. But if you're even a little curious, fire one up. Trust me, it's worth it. Alright, let's talk about the Hunter class. From a range perspective, you got 2 different flavors here. The Marksmanship Hunter and Beast Mastery Hunter. Marksmanship Hunter, or often said as Marksman Hunter, is your classic sharpshooter. It's all about big shots and precise hits from a distance. And you don't even need a pet if you don't want one. These days you have the option to choose, without you sacrificing DPS. Your playstyle revolves a lot around abilities like Aim Shot, a shot with a short charge time, to gain some power and precision. And then the opposite, Rapid Fire, an instant shot that does a barrage of arrows. So Marksman is for players who like picking off enemies with powerful shots, managing cooldowns and timing those big bursts of damage. The playstyle switches between slower, careful setup phases and fast-paced burst windows. so it keeps you on your toes without being overly complicated. Then there's Beast Mastery Hunter, and this one is for the players who love exotic pets. The cool thing is, marksmen can't tame these exotic pets. You have to be a Beast Mastery to do so. So you command this exotic beast, or even an entire pack, to tear through enemies while you stay safely at range, supporting them with a barrage of shots. The big selling point? Beast Mastery is fully mobile. Nothing in your core rotation forces you to stand still, so you can keep moving through mechanics while dishing out solid, consistent damage. It actually plays a lot like the fast-paced melee spec, except now you're doing it from a distance, and with a massive stampede of exotic animals at your side. Your enemies won't just be running from your attacks, they'll be fleeing in terror at the sight of earth-shaking horde charging towards them. It's a sight for sore eyes. From a class fantasy and lore perspective, the hunter is definitely well designed and fully represented in WoW. We know many famous hunters, like Rexxar, the champion of the Horde, and Sylvanas, once a leader of the Horde. And let's not forget about Illyria Windrunner, who plays a big role in the current expansion. These are just big names, but there's a huge list to choose from. To prove this point, let me tell you a quick short story about a cool hunter that you probably don't know. Her name is Addie Fizzlebog, and yes, she is a gnome. But she's not a legendary hero, not a Dark Ranger, and she definitely doesn't hatch in the shadows. Addie the Gnome Hunter is a loud, excitable, completely over the top gnome, with a bow too big for her body and a love for hunting that's bigger than most Tauren. When you first meet her in Legion, she's kind of a mess. She sets off her own traps, talks a mile a minute, and treats the class hall like an amusement park. But here's the thing, Addie doesn't give up. She's got heart. She wants to be a real hunter, not just tagging along, but tracking beasts, learning the wilds, and earning her place. And over time, she does. She grows, she helps take down elite beasts, she learns the path, and by the end, she's one of us. Addie hunts not for glory, not for vengeance, but for the sheer joy of it. And honestly, doesn't that make her one of the coolest hunters in all of Azeroth? At its heart, the hunter fantasy is about taming and fighting alongside beasts, tracking and hunting enemies from afar. You're either a lone ranger, who's one with their weapon, deadly accurate with bows, guns or crossbows, or you're a master of beasts and animals, laying traps, tracking targets and striking with precision. The ultimate animal tamer. Blizzard really does a good job at making you feel like a hunter. One thing that annoyed me in the past is that you wouldn't see much impact of your spells. Coming from a mage, I felt like shooting your bow was underwhelming. The sounds were really cool, but you would see just a small black stripe on your screen. But with the past overhauls, your animations have gotten increasingly better and better. From a bunch of crows flying at your target, at arrows that look like they break the sound barrier, to black arrows that look like they got shot by Sylvanas herself. The animations have gotten a lot cooler. Both specs have their own vibe. Marksmanship is about cooldown windows and big hits. Beast Mastery is fast, simple and quick on their feet. Pick the one that appeals to your playstyle the most. It'd be easy to tell a new player to grab the Hunter class for its simple, approachable playstyle, but that wouldn't be fair to what the class is capable of, because in the hands of someone who really knows their toolkit, who really knows their timings and talents, a Hunter can be an absolute powerhouse. So whether you're chasing big crits or constant pressure, there's room to grow and master the class in ways that it keeps it fun, rewarding and lethal. You can be a huge benefit to any raid team or Mythic Plus group. And if those two things are not your playstyle, well, you can shine in your solo play too. With your own tank army, you can take on raid bosses all by yourself without even risking getting hit, making it a really good pick for you to farm all raids with, collecting transmogs, or doing delves all by yourself with just Bran at your side. On the battlefield, playing PvP, you are a force to watch out for. You'll drop their health faster than the enemy can check their health bar. So pick your weapon, pick your playstyle, and let the hunt begin. Still unsure? Let's simplify things. Want something traditional, a magical caster feel that has spectacular animations, deal damage with fire, frost and arcane? Go for the mage. It's a blast. And may the force always be with you. Love a more evil and unkillable DPS that does dark magic or rains down green fire out of the sky and has demons for pets? Go for the Warlock. Behold its power, and I hope you are not afraid to wield it. Want to play with shadow magic and dots? And do you like to have the side option to be a healer? Go play priest. Holy moly, it can be fun, and may the light guide you. Want to play around with the elements and totems and have a badass wolf as spirit form? Go for the shaman and let the waves obey your every whim. Want to be a huge fire chicken that blasts the stars? Go for the druid. Your fury alter ego won't regret it. Want to be a ranged but not a caster and have plenty of movability? Check out the hunter. and show them you are here to hunt and not to make friends. Or you want to breathe fire on your foes, pick up your friends with your wings and place them somewhere else on the battlefield, then go for the Evoker. All ranged DPS are viable, all are fun in a unique way. Blizzard is the best at developing class identity, and last season there was not more than 6% performance difference between the best performing and least. So let's forget about the performance and pick the one that's right for you. I hope this breakdown helps you figure out which ranged DPS fits your playstyle, and that I got you excited to try one or maybe even all out. If you want a deeper dive in these ranged DPS, I got just a video for you, covering them all one by one. We have some more in-depth information on each specific spec and rotation. This video would have been way too long if I included this, so I hope you don't mind, and definitely check out my channel. Let me know in the comments which DPS you're thinking about trying, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to help. Please consider subscribing, it really helps. Thanks for watching, and happy nuking. Brink's out.